With Toy Story 4 now out in theaters, there are 21 Pixar films, so it's time to rank these movies from worst to best. Let's get started. Hey everybody, my name is Justin. I love to watch movies, I love to rank movies, I love to talk about movies. If you guys can relate, you guys are in the right spot. Make sure to hit that subscribe button down below and click that bell notification so you guys don't miss any of my up and coming videos. Today we're going to be ranking all 21 of the Pixar films. I'm going to rank these movies from worst to best. So before we get into this list, make sure to comment down below with how you would rank all 21 of these Pixar films. I had a separate video planned for ranking all of the Pixar shorts, but Toy Story 4 decided not to have a Pixar short, which was a little bit devastating, so we'll save that video for another time. This list is going to be hard because a lot of these movies are really good, and some of them are just not as good as others. But let's get this list started with number 21, Cars 2. I'm not a huge fan of the Cars series, and Cars 2 is easily the worst Pixar film. It is so corny and just so bizarre. The plot really doesn't make sense to me, and the plot is not very engaging. And in the first Cars movie, I really did not care about Tow Mater or Lightning McQueen, and they really don't do anything to make me like them in the second film, and they make them do some odd things in the second movie, and it's just not very fun. The jokes do not land. It's just a really dumbed down Pixar film. Coming at number 20 is Cars. Now, I think Cars is obviously much better than Cars 2, but still not a very entertaining film. There's just something about this movie that I just do not like. I do not care for Lightning McQueen or Tow Mater. I think Tow Mater is very obnoxious. Lightning McQueen is not a really well-written character. The movie looks great. Some of the movie is fun. Music's good. I don't know. I just don't like Cars. Coming at number 19 is Ratatouille. Now this one will surprise a lot of people because a lot of people like Ratatouille. I have the same feelings I have for Ratatouille as I do for Cars. I just don't find it to be a very fun film. I don't find the relationship between Remy and the adult to be interesting. I think the plot is okay and some of the jokes do work, but the relationship between the rat and human is what's supposed to hold this movie together, and I really don't care for it. Coming at number 18 is A Bug's Life. Now, when I create a list of all the Pixar films, I always manage to forget A Bug's Life because it's just a forgettable film. It's a movie that one of their earlier films, and I just think that some of the characters are okay. Some of them are fun. It's a movie that doesn't have that one scene that stands out. It's the film that is not as memorable as Monsters, Inc. or Finding Nemo or The Incredibles. Kind of dull at times. It's not that exciting. We have this film with these characters that just are there. They don't really do much to make the movie exciting. They don't make the movie like engaging at all. Some of them are memorable. I like a couple of them. I can't sit here and tell you their names, to be honest. I felt like I just watched this movie the other day. But A Bug's Life is a movie that attempts some jokes, does not really land, and I do like the plot. I think it's an interesting story, and I like the exploration of the ant and bugs worlds and everything, and the consequences one ant can have on a whole society, but I feel like they just didn't play that up very well. Coming at number 17 is Monsters University. This movie is fun. It's an enjoyable film. They're not as strong characters as they were in Monsters, Inc. Some of the other college monsters, students, are fun in the film. I like Charlie Day's character in the movie. He's pretty hilarious. It definitely did a good job of exploring what college is like. They just didn't spark that same emotion or feelings I had for this first Monsters movie. Coming at number 16 is A Good Dinosaur. Now, a lot of people do not like this film. It is at the bottom of everybody's list. I think it's an enjoyable film. There's definitely some funny moments in this movie. The animation is bright. It pops. It looks great. The relationship between the dinosaur and the little human, I think, is well written. But the overall journey that these characters were going on felt watered down. It felt very weak. And also at times a bit repetitive. They're just going on their journey and exploring the world. And at times it works for like a first view and a second view, but it's not a film that I want to sit down and watch over and over again. Coming at number 15 is Cars 3. Cars 3 was a huge improvement over the first two Cars movies. I actually like Cars 3. I think it handles Lightning McQueen very well and where he is in his life, in his career. It doesn't try to do the same thing from Cars and Cars 2. It does something different for this character. A very realistic approach to a character like this. Someone who is involved in sports, like Lightning McQueen racing, he gets older and he's not as good as he was. And so he's dealing with that and is also trying to usher in a new era of race cars. It's funny in this movie. Sometimes it's engaging and thrilling. There's not a lot of tow mater, so that's a plus. Coming in number 14 is Finding Dory. Most of these new sequels, they're not as strong as the previous installment, and that goes for the same for Finding Dory. I think that Dory is a really fun character. She's not the problem in this movie. Some of the other sea creatures are fun in here as well, but it feels very contained. Where the first Finding Dory, the Finding Nemo movie, it was an adventure. We were trying to get from point A to point B, and you explored all these different things along the way, all these different sea creatures and fishes and whatever it may be. The journey was worth watching. Finding Dory feels very contained. Now Dory is trying to discover more about herself and her parents, and it's in a journey that I want for her, and it's fun to watch, but it never really ventures out of where Dory is, and never really ventures out of the story of Dory. And I know it's Dory's story. We can rhyme all day here, but it never really ventures away from that. It plays it very safe in Dory's story. Her plot, I don't have to say Dory's story all day, but I like her story. I wanted to see a little more. I want to see it expand a little bit, but it's still a fun film. Coming at number 13 is WALL-E. WALL-E is an adorable movie. WALL-E is one of the cutest little Pixar characters. But the first half of the movie with Eve and WALL-E, and they're just there on this world, it's kind of boring a little bit. I mean, it's kind of like the same thing over and over again. He sees something, he likes it, he collects it, and then the movie picks up towards the end when he goes into space. The movie's message definitely progressed throughout the film and definitely hit it hard towards the end. I definitely like the second half of the movie more than the first half. The first half is cute, it's adorable, but there's only so much that I could appreciate about the first half of the movie. And WALL-E, in the beginning of the film, exploring different things and collecting it, it's good for a few moments. And then towards the end, it definitely picks up and becomes different. Coming in at number 12 is Brave. Brave is another film that's towards the bottom of everybody's list, but I kind of like it. It's an adorable film. I really like Merida in the film. She's a really strong character. This movie definitely feels like two different stories. One of her trying to show her parents that she is worthy and she doesn't need a husband, when the other one is her trying to take care of her mom, who turns into a bear. Polar opposites, and each one is different in their own way. Each one works in their own way. I wish maybe the film would have focused just on her mom being the bear, or the other story of her trying to prove herself and show that she doesn't need a husband. If they would have chose one storyline to work with, I think it would have been a stronger movie. But we have kind of like two different storylines in here, and I do think that each storyline works in its own light. And Merida is really cool. I like her in this movie. The voice acting is really good. It's really funny at times. It has a positive message towards the end about family, which I definitely think works. But I would like to see like one cohesive story. Coming at number 11 is Toy Story 4. This hurts me to put this film so low on the list compared to the other Toy Story films, But Toy Story 4 is a good film. I think it lacks an emotional punch to it, and some scenes do feel a little bit rushed. It wanted to be emotional and bittersweet, but how certain scenes were played out just did not work. Also, some characters took a step back in this movie and weren't as strong as they were in the previous 3 films, which is disappointing. The writers definitely understood Woody and his journey and how to make something different for him and not be the previous 3 movies. The animation is beautiful. Some of the new characters are fun, like Duke Kaboom and Jordan Peele and Keegan-Michael Key's character. I thought they were great additions to the movie. It tried to be bittersweet, just did not work. I really would have loved to see a little more of Buzz. Coming at number 10 is Coco. Coco was a huge surprise. It's a movie that stuck in my mind for months after viewing it. The songs are great. It has a really positive message. I love the world building in here. I love the exploration of the dead and how you can still be connected to them even if they are dead. I like the journey of Miguel and him understanding more about his family. It goes way back with family members and digs deep into Miguel's past when people try to hide it. And you can't hide your family. Your family is your family, and they might have flaws and they might be psychotic and crazy, but they're your family and you gotta embrace it. Coming at number 9 is Inside Out. Inside Out is Pixar's most creative film. This is a truly, astounding story of people, and inside their head they have all these different emotions. Some days you might be really sad, some days you might be really happy, some days you might be really frustrated, and that's okay. It's okay to embrace your feelings. And I think this movie has a serious impact on kids. As a teacher, we have social emotion lessons, and we use the characters from Inside Out in the classroom, talking about maybe today I'm angry, maybe today I'm sad, maybe today I feel like I'm joyful, like Joy. Because the movie was so well written, because the different characters' emotions played out very well and they were understood. Coming in at number 8 is Incredibles 2. Now this is a solid Pixar sequel. I just watched this movie the other day. It still feels like the first Pixar film. It benefits from continuing the story immediately after the first film. The characters still feel the same, but also trying to change things a little bit. We have Jack Jack with his glorious powers, which is very fun to watch. The villain is a little bit on the weaker side, but it is still a really fun film. I love the family dynamics. Once you get them all together, it's a blast. And when they're off doing their own thing, it still works really well. You have a lot of films where the characters are off doing their own things and it doesn't really work. Here, it does work and it's still a blast. Coming in at number 7 is Up. Up messed me up in the beginning of the film. This is a truly emotional way to start a film, and having that emotional punch in the beginning of the film makes the whole rest of the film just feel worthy and needed and emotional. He's going on this journey to place his house where him and his wife wanted it to be. She passed away and he wants to put it there. It is truly heartbreaking, but along the way he meets new people, different creatures, and he's still very determined. Carl is a really sweet Pixar character, grumpy at times because of what he has to deal with. I remember seeing it years ago in theaters and it still manages to really affect me to my core these days. Coming in at number 5 is Toy Story 2. Toy Story 2 is such a good sequel to the first Toy Story film. This introduces new characters like Jessie and Bullseye, who were very iconic and added a lot to the movie. This is the film where Woody discovers that he used to be a really popular television star, and it just added a lot more backstory to who Woody was. This also gave Buzz a chance to become a more independent character and a leader, and I think he truly shined in those moments. Toy Story 2 once again added a lot of emotion to the movie. That really devastating song about Jessie's girl that she used to be with and how she was abandoned, that is truly heartbreaking. This movie is once again very funny. All around, Toy Story 2 is an awesome sequel. Coming in at number 5 is Finding Nemo. Finding Nemo is a blast. I absolutely love Finding Nemo. It is a true gem. It's one of Pixar's best films. Every single character that's introduced in this movie has something to do and feels important to the overall storyline. It might be Bruce the Shark, who doesn't have that much screen time, but every single character in this film stood out and is very memorable. When you think of Finding Nemo, you think of Bruce the Shark, and you think of all the fish in the fish tank at the dentist office. It's because love was given to each one of these characters. And Marlin's journey to find Nemo, and along the way running into Dory and him putting up with Dory, it's a fun ride, and it makes it for one of the most like iconic Pixar duos, Marlin and Dory. And the progression of their relationship is something that started really rocky. Marlin wanted nothing to do with Dory, but she stuck around, and together they went and found Nemo. And at the end, he wanted to protect Dory from anything that she did, because she has a really bad memory and just will go off and get lost, and he didn't want that to happen to her. So I really love the progression of their relationship and what it meant to Marlin at the end of the film. Finding Nemo is a movie that's filled with great music. It's beautiful characters. Every single one is outstanding. I love the story in here and the meaning of never giving up. It's easily one of Pixar's best films. Coming in at number 4 is the first Incredibles film. This is such a fun film. When you get all of the family members together, it really definitely feels like that superhero film. And it definitely took its time to write out and flesh out each one of the family members. So when they do eventually all get together, it's really strong. They really feel like a strong family unit, even though that some of them are lying behind their backs. But they definitely feel like your average family, but just happen to have superpowers. And that's one thing I always praise about The Incredibles, that it takes your average family and just flips it on its head and gives them superpowers. And they do a great job of making them feel like that average family because they're in school and they're doing homework. But they also do a great job of making them feel like superheroes. So I love how they were written. It definitely felt authentic with that fantasy vibe as well. The villain was super cool. I loved his story in the movie and how it played into Bob Parr's life. The action scenes are intense, they're thrilling, they're a blast. It definitely has that epic superhero vibe when they are fighting against the villain. And it's a film that's always worth a watch. Coming at number 3 is Monsters, Inc. This is one of Pixar's earliest films, and it's a movie that definitely explored the world of monsters very well. You know, as a kid, people might be afraid of a monster in their closet, and this movie explored that they're not supposed to be scary. They have a job to scare you so they can run their world. And I like the different rules and the society and the different laws or whatever it may be inside this world. It explored something that kids might view, that there's this monster there, but what else about it? What is he doing throughout the day? And Monsters, Inc. explored that, gave them jobs, make it feel like just a real world, had restaurants and cars and cities and people walk into work. It felt like a lived-in world, and I think that's one thing that Monsters, Inc. did so well. Paired that nicely with Mike Wazowski and Sully. So cool. I love their characters in this movie. They're definitely iconic. When you think of Pixar, you think of Woody and Buzz and Nemo and Dory and Marlin, and you also think of Sully and Mike Wazowski. They definitely worked well together. Sully was massive and blue and big creature, and Mike Wazowski was this little green eyeball. And so they're polar opposite, but they work well as a team. They definitely played that up in the movie, and they took advantage of that relationship in this film. Coming in number 2 is the first Toy Story film. The first Toy Story film is iconic. It is so good. I just reviewed this movie on my channel. It's a movie that brought a shift in Woody's life. He was so settled into his life with Andy, and then they brought in Buzz Lightyear. And everybody loved Buzz, and they all forgot about Woody. And Woody was dealing with the fact that he was not as well loved as Buzz Lightyear, and I think that this movie had some deep themes. It was very emotional at times, It felt realistic and authentic. The animation for its time was groundbreaking. The music fit in perfectly into this movie. And the progression of Woody and Buzz, two characters that hated each other and didn't want to be around each other, to them at the end where they were trying to protect each other and get home to Andy and ended up becoming good friends. It's a very bittersweet story. It's emotional. It's fun. It's just all around just an amazing movie. I went into a full depth review. You can check that out on my channel. But Toy Story is one of the best animated films of all time. But my favorite Pixar film has to go to Toy Story 3. Toy Story 3 wrecked me. It's a truly emotional film, a movie that needed to happen. It brought emotions to the toys. They wanted to be loved, but Andy was grown up. He didn't want to play with the toys, so they had to seek it somewhere else. And at the end, I cried twice in this movie. Once when Andy gave all the toys away, and once when they were accepting their death. Pretty tragic, pretty heartbreaking, very emotional. Toy Story 3 was funny. Emotional, it was thrilling, it's beautiful. I think the characters were really well written, the relationships worked, and it had a deep theme of being there for people even when they're not there for you, and I think it was handled very well. So there you guys have it, all Pixar films ranked worst to best. How would you rank these movies? Let me know in the comments down below. Stay tuned for more awesome videos coming your way. My name is Just Watch Movies, and you guys stay classy, YouTube.